My car made a sound it had never made before. 20 minutes later, a mechanic was telling me it would be $380 to fix. I already knew what was in my account because I checked it that morning. $412, and rent had just cleared. I paid with a credit card I couldn't clear that month because that's what those two numbers force you to do. That night, I didn't feel irresponsible. I felt exposed. One ordinary bad afternoon away from a real problem the whole time, and I hadn't noticed. No bonus, no inheritance, no side hustle that took off. My income that year was ordinary, and nothing about my situation was special. What changed was 10 specific, unglamorous habits, and I'm not going to pretend they felt good. Some still don't. 10 habits. Here's the first one. This is the habit that made every other habit possible. I never decided to save. I decided once, then automated the decision so I never had to make it again. Set up a transfer for the morning your paycheck lands, not the evening. The morning before you've opened your banking app and formed an opinion about what's in there. $40 a paycheck twice a month is $960 a year. That is not a rounding error. That's most of a real cushion, built on autopilot, on 10 minutes of setup and zero willpower after that. The uncomfortable part, the first transfer feels like a pay cut. It is one, briefly. That feeling fades in about 3 weeks. The money doesn't. This one costs nothing, and most people skip it because it sounds silly. I renamed my savings account, not to savings, to flat tire fund. There's real behavior underneath that. Money in an account labeled savings gets rated constantly because it isn't attached to anything. Money labeled for a specific fear gets protected because spending it means picturing the exact bad day it was supposed to cover. Try 3. Flat tire. Lost my job. Dentist. Then watch how much harder it is to move money out of an account that's named after the thing you're afraid of. 90 seconds of typing. It's also the habit people skip first, because it feels like decoration instead of strategy. It isn't. I started at $25 a week. Not because that was a good target, because it was small enough that I couldn't talk myself out of it on a bad week. The instinct is to wait until you can save a real amount. That instinct is exactly why most people never start, because the real amount is always one raise away. Start at $15 a week if that's what you can defend. $15 a week is $780 a year, and you'll raise the number 2 or 3 times along the way without noticing, because by then, the habit is already running. The embarrassing number is the point. It's the one you'll actually keep. Once a month, I sold 5 things I hadn't touched in a year, not as a spring cleaning mood, as a deposit. 5 is the number because it's small enough to finish in one evening. The monitor in the closet, the guitar you've told 3 people you're getting back into, the bike, the console. You know the 5 without looking. The rule that makes this work. Whatever you sell goes into the fund the same day. No exceptions, no, I'll move it later. 4 months of that is around $340 out of things that were quietly taking up space anyway. The habit isn't the decluttering. It's refusing to let that money sit in checking even overnight, where it quietly turns into grocery money instead of fun money. Tax refund, birthday cash, a rebate you forgot you were owed, the class action check for $11 you don't remember signing up for. The instinct is to treat this as different from real money, as a free pass. I didn't. Every windfall, at minimum 80%, went to the fund. The other 20% I spent on purpose, immediately, on something I actually wanted. Because a rule with no give in it is a rule you break in month 2. A $400 refund means $350 into the fund that same week, before it blends into your checking balance and disappears into a month of slightly nicer dinners you won't remember by March. Windfalls feel like bonus money. They're just regular money that showed up all at once, and regular money is exactly what the fund is for. That's 5. The next 5 are the ones that held the fund together once it existed, which turns out to be a completely different problem than building it. If any of this sounds like your Tuesday afternoon, subscribe. This channel keeps tracking which habits actually move the number without pretending any of it is easy. Every time I almost reached for a credit card for something the fund could have covered, I wrote it down. Date, amount, what almost happened. It takes about 10 seconds. Standing at a counter, phone out. 11th of March, $90 dentist. Didn't need the card. Do that for 6 months and you'll have something like 11 entries worth $600. 11 moments where, a year earlier, you'd have gone into debt without thinking twice and forgotten about it by the weekend. That list isn't guilt. It's proof. Saving is invisible by design, which is why it feels pointless in month 4. The near miss list is the only receipt you get that it's working. I know the instinct once the number starts looking real. Put it somewhere it can grow. Don't. An emergency fund that's invested can lose value the exact week you need it, which defeats the entire point of having one. This money should be boring, liquid, and earning something real. Strong, high-yield savings accounts have been paying in the 4 to 5% range. $1,800 in a big bank account earning almost nothing versus the same $1,800 in a high-yield account is about $70 a year. Same money, same access, zero extra risk. You just move it. Boring is the feature, not the bug. I didn't aim for a clean round number I saw online. I added up my actual rent, groceries, insurance, and minimum bills for one real month. That was my first target. Notice what's not on that list. No restaurants, no subscriptions you'd cancel in a bad month. This is the number that keeps you housed and employed, not the number that keeps your life comfortable. Those are different targets, and only one of them is urgent. Do yours, and you'll get something oddly specific. $1,140. Nothing marketing friendly about it. That's why it works, because it's yours, and you can picture every line in it. The standard advice is 3 to 6 months of expenses. That's a fine destination and a terrible starting line because at $25 a week, it's years away and it feels like it. 1 month is close enough to reach for. A target you calculated yourself is a target you believe. A target you copied from a video is one you'll quietly abandon the first time it's inconvenient. Every purchase rounded up to the next dollar, the difference swept into the fund automatically. A $4.60 coffee becomes a $5 charge, and that 40 cents is gone before you'd miss it. I know the objection because I had it. 40 cents is nothing. And it is nothing individually. That's the entire mechanism. It's small enough that no part of your brain ever files it as a sacrifice, so there's nothing to resent and nothing to quit. Run it for a year without changing a single spending decision, and it's somewhere just over $190 you never consciously saved. It's the smallest habit here, and it's the one that needs zero decisions once it's set up, which is precisely why it survives the months where every other habit gets skipped. The habit that protects all the others. I wrote down in advance what actually counts. Car repair to stay employed, medical bill, job loss, nothing else. Not a sale. Not a trip that will never come around again. Not a gift for someone you love, however much you want to say yes. Raid the fund twice for things that felt urgent and weren't, and you rebuild from near zero twice. And rebuilding is worse than starting, because the first time you had momentum, and the second time you have a memory of losing it. Write the list first. Tape it inside a cabinet door where you'll see it before you decide anything. It holds. The list isn't willpower in the moment. It's a decision made in advance by a calmer version of you for the version of you who won't be calm when it matters. Remember the flat tire, $412 against a $380 bill and a credit card covering the gap. 18 months later, the same kind of Tuesday happened. Different repair, similar number. I paid it from the fund, transferred that afternoon, and went back to my day. Nothing about that second Tuesday made a story. That's the entire point. 10 habits to turn the worst ordinary afternoon of the month into something with no plot at all. If you're starting from zero right now, that's fine. Every habit on this list started at an embarrassing number, including mine. Subscribe to Danny Wolfe Finance. Next, we take a very different lens to the same money stress, tracking it across every income level from $25,000 to past $1 million, and the results aren't what you'd expect. Tell me in the comments which of these 10 would be hardest for you to keep. No judgment, just the list.